Page 115, the Marine's Hymn. On page 114, they talk about writing in the key of G. You can read all that and have fun getting confused. You have a ball. On page 115, they're talking about the primary chords in G major. I've already talked about them, but here we go. Let's cover them in more detail. It's the same stuff we talked about in C major, except now we're in G major. So one chord, where we're going to talk triads to start, is built on the first step of the scale in G here. It's every other note. You just do a triad. It's a one chord. It's a G chord. And if you hadn't noticed, it's also a 5 chord in the key of C. C is here. G is the 5th step in the key of C. So it's a 5 chord in the key of C. It is a 1 chord in the key of G. A versatile little devil, ain't it? Yeah. Okay, the 4 chord is built on the 4th step. 1, 2, 3, 4 is a C chord. Well, imagine that. We just put the G on the bottom, so it's here to here. Is how we typically play it. Then the 5-7 chord is built on the 5th step. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have an F sharp. Add the 7th. Okay. And we're just going to leave out the A. So it's here. If I put the D on top, it's here. And that's how we do it. So we have a 1 chord, 4 chord, 5-7 chord, and that's the primary chords for G major. You need to know them in both hands. Please learn them and get good at them. In the Marine's Hymn, you're using these chords in the left hand. Talk about fingering. I like this fingering. In the right hand, look at this. They're starting out here. And immediately, you're changing fingers on repeated notes. I really like that. That is great. And get good at that sort of thing in either hand. We don't want to play all those with the same finger. You'll hold yourself back. All right, I'm not saying it's bad or it's wrong. It's not. You just hold yourself back. This is much better if you can learn to use different fingers on repeated notes and do it without looking down. You might look down at first, of course, until you get the hang of it, but eventually you want to do it without looking down. The first line is repeated. We're going to play it twice. The second line at the end of it, there's a DC Alfine. Have we had that before? DC means go back to the beginning. Alfine means go to fine. So when you get to the end of the second line, we're going to go back to the beginning and we're going to play the fine, which is at the end of the first line. The roadmap is we're going to play the first line twice, then we're going to play the second line, then we're going to play the first line again. Now, when you do a DC or a DS, or let's stick with DCs, you do not do any repeats. Okay, the repeats are only the first time through. So we don't repeat the first line again on the DC. So when we go back to the beginning to play it again, it's just one time. Make sure you hold these notes down to the correct length. Look at the third to the last measure of either line, doesn't matter. In the left hand you have a dotted half note. You're going to hold it down until, in this case, lift it with the right hand because you have a phrase in here. So when the right hand comes up, go ahead and lift the left hand down. So in that measure, in the first line, third to the last measure, it's 1 and 2 and 1. I'm going to lift both hands at the same time so I get a little silence before I go on. That simplifies things a lot. There's staccatos in the last measure of each line. In the left hand, make sure you get that. It's a wrist staccato. More or less bouncing off the keys. The trick is to try and get all the notes down at the same time. I'm not very good at it. I hope you do better than I do. Now, rhythm-wise, there's a couple tricky little things. You're familiar with dotted rhythms when the long note comes first. What happens when the short note comes first? Look at the next to the last measure. The first line, it has 1 and 2 and 1 and. See the dotted quarter note comes on the end of 1. 1 and. So it's 1 and 2 and 3 and. So that dotted quarter note comes on the end of 3. 1 and 2 and 3 and. Okay. Same thing in the second line next to the last measure. 1 and 2 and 3 and. So it's still a dotted rhythm, it's just the short notes coming first. That's all it is. Hopefully that's not difficult for you. You may have to work that out really slow for a while if you have to. And the second line in the third to the last measure, you have a dotted half note. 3 counts. So when you play the 8th note, G, up above, you lift that up. Alright? In the first line, you had a break in the phrase, so you'd lift the hands up together. But in the second line, it's all one phrase. So you don't lift the right hand up. There's no break. So you have to lift the left hand up at the right time, and you lift it up on beat 4. And beat 4 is when you play the G, the first 8th note. So that's when you lift it up. So that measure is 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So right on 4, I lift the left hand up. So it has a pickup. So I'm going to give us 3 counts, and then we'll come in together. Let's try this out and see what happens. Hands, you're in G position. Of course, there's no pedal. You don't need pedal. So I'll give us 3 counts. Let's try it together. 1, ready, and go, and.